There are three essential steps law firm owners must take to accurately manage their IOLTA accounts. This video is for law firm owners who deposit client funds into one or more trust accounts, are concerned about discrepancies between the client ledger and their bank balance, want to establish more concise methods for managing their clients' funds, and who aim to implement best practices that will prevent IOLTA and ethics violations. Does this sound like you? Are you confused about the difference between your IOLTA bank balance and the sum of your client ledger balances? Do you spend hours trying to figure out individual client retainer balances? Do you describe your IOLTA account as a black hole? Are you worried about managing client funds so much that it keeps you up at night? Or does your firm receive frequent questions from clients about their retainer balances? Through this process I'm about to describe, you will discover how to gain clarity on your current balances in your trust account, divest yourself of unclaimed and unidentifiable funds in those accounts, establish an effective method for maintaining clean records going forward, and claim funds from the trust that might rightfully belong to your firm. You'll find out that this can be done even if you've been in practice for many, many years, have not managed your ledger balances well in the past, or even would describe your trust as a black hole, regardless of the size of your firm, your areas of practice, or the amount of money you may have in those accounts. Why should you listen to me? I have seen how law firms struggle with managing their client trust funds, and I understand the common mistakes that create imbalances in those accounts. I've helped numerous firms clean up messes created from their flawed trust accounting systems, and I'm passionate about helping firm owners gain peace of mind by establishing best practices and avoiding ethics issues. The three steps law firms take to maintaining accurate IOLTA account records are reconcile, report, and reform. The first step is to reconcile your current account balances. What does that mean? First, you have to discover what discrepancies exist between the balances on your client ledger, your bank statement, and in your accounting system. Then you need to identify missing deposits, uncashed checks, and variances on client matters. Third, you need to gather detailed information from client ledgers, your check registers, and your trust account ledgers. Then you need to rectify the client ledgers based on your findings, research issues such as uncleared checks, and then reissue or reimburse to clear your accounts. Step 2 is report. The second step in maintaining your accurate trust account records is to report your unclaimed and unidentifiable funds. This can be very difficult at first. You have to do your due diligence to make sure you've worked hard to locate rightful owners and make the appropriate distributions. After you've done that, you can report those unclaimed or unidentifiable funds to the state based on your state rules. Usually the money will go to the state treasury or the IOLTA board. And then you need to escheat those funds. In other words, get them out of your account and into the hands of the rightful organization, the treasury or the IOLTA board. Once you have those clean accounts, you also need to reform your system so that you don't run into problems again in the future. You do that by utilizing the right technology in the right way, documenting the processes for dual recording transactions in both your case management system and your accounting system. You hire the right people and train them well so they know what they're doing. You establish a monthly 3-way reconciliation process and also make sure that you report unclaimed funds on an annual basis. To maintain accurate records of your client trust accounts, firms must reconcile their current balances, report unclaimed and unidentifiable funds, and then reform their accounting processes. For example, I helped an owner of a firm in Georgia who described his account as a black hole. We discovered that there was a big imbalance between the individual client ledgers that were being maintained and the $1 million balance in his IOLTA account. He also lacked a method for identifying uncleared checks and missing deposits, and his financial management staff and bookkeeper were not using the proper techniques. So we took some time to reconcile those discrepancies between the bank balances and the ledger balances, and then we reformed the process, making sure they used the right technology, the right people, and the right procedures to keep track of those accounts accurately. The result was clarity of the financials, the black hole no longer existed, and recovery of some earned fee income that he had not recovered in the past that was rightfully the firm's. Another case study involved a bankruptcy firm who was not reimbursing herself for the advanced filing fees in bankruptcy filings. We found out that she was paying filing fees on a firm credit card and not reimbursing the firm for the retainers that had been collected for those fees. She was using several different Excel spreadsheets for tracking retainers received, fees paid, and fees reimbursed. Once we were able to reconcile the accounts, looking at the filing fees paid but not transferred from IOLTA to operating, filing fees retainers that were paid by clients but not yet had been incurred, and the balance on the retainer account compared to the bank statement. Then we reformed the process, making sure we used the technology correctly and we had the right people doing the right things to keep those accounts in balance. The result was relief from worry. That attorney had been up at night worrying about those discrepancies, and she also was able to recover, I think, over $30,000 in costs that she had advanced to clients because she could identify what she actually owed herself from the retainer account. The third case study involves a 30-year-old account. So this was an attorney who had been in practice for many years, and the bank accounts he had for his IOLTA funds, I think there were a couple of them, had not been reconciled over the years. And that's somewhat to be expected when you started your practice that long ago. There wasn't the technology there is today for tracking and reconciling accounts. We found that there were handwritten ledger balances, but when we added them up, they didn't match the bank balance. There were uncleared checks that we hadn't dealt with. There were checks from the IOLTA for attorney fees that had never been cashed, and there were some unidentified balances in those accounts. So we reconciled those accounts, including the balances that were in the retainer accounts to the bank statements, and then the real estate account to the bank statements as well. Then we reported and escheated the funds to the state treasury, and we reformed the processes by using the right technology in his accounting system, and then we defined and implemented an effective retainer account management process for him to use going forward. That resulted in peace of mind for the owner and also a recovery of some earned fee income that had never been processed correctly in the firm. So in summary, law firm owners can gain peace of mind and confidence in their methods for tracking client funds by reconciling balances between the client ledger, the accounting system, and the bank, reporting and escheating unclaimed and unidentifiable funds, and then reforming the methods used for tracking client funds going forward. I invite you to book a complimentary strategy call if you deposit client funds into one or more accounts, if you are concerned about discrepancies between your client ledger and bank account balance, if you want to establish more concise methods for managing your client funds, and if you aim to implement some best practices that will prevent IOLTA and ethics violations. On this call, we will map out a plan for you to reconcile those accounts and gain clarity on the current client balances, report and divest yourself of unclaimed or unidentifiable funds, and reform those processes and establish an effective method for maintaining clean records of your clients' funds that are held in trust. I'm looking forward to talking with you and helping you out. Just click the button below the screen to schedule a call.